Welcome to the Write Like a Badass podcast. Barb Nessinger taught middle school English and U.S. history for 22 years before transitioning into publishing, where she's been a writer and editor of several business magazines. Barb is a voracious reader. She reads all kinds of genres: historical fiction, sci-fi, fantasy. She rereads the classics as comfort books. Barb is a devoted mother of both a brilliant and talented daughter, Jessica Glass, who herself is a teacher, and a mother of a variety of pets. Barb and her husband George live in Texas, and they enjoy camping and hiking in the West Texas mountains, the hill country, Palo Duro Canyon, and the swamps of East Texas. Barb collects and photographs smart dolls and goes to smart doll conventions. And yes, we're going to hear about that too and see some of the smart dolls. So, Barb, we're talking to you today because you've been working on a work of fiction since 2019 and you haven't finished it yet. And we'll talk about why. But first, it is a young adult historical coming of age novel. Is that right?
Correct.
And it takes place during the Tudor era in London. Give us a brief synopsis of the book and of the main character, please.
Okay, well, thanks for having me, first of all, Maureen. And yeah, now I feel like, wow, 7 years has gone by. Okay, since I started this novel. Okay, brief synopsis. I'm somewhat obsessed with Tudor England and all things Tudor England, and I am an avowed Anglophile. So knowing my love of that particular period in history, I knew that my first book was going to probably be something to do with that era. And I chose Shakespeare's London because it is one that a lot of people can identify with. There's a lot out there in the media about Shakespeare's London and Queen Elizabeth I's period of history. My main character's name is Lisbeth, and she is, yes, named after Queen Elizabeth. This is actually closer to the end of the Queen's reign, so 1590s, when she's already an older woman. And a lot of young women, a lot of young women were named Elizabeth or variations of that back then. So she is 16 years old, which for that time period would be considered a woman, young woman. And she worked for her father part-time in his family's pub. Her mother's dead, and she also worked part-time at one of the theaters, Globe, with Shakespeare and some of the other luminaries of the theater at the time. She worked as a seamstress and a kind of a creator of costumes. So I have created this, the setting, which is known, and the premise of the novel. Do you want me to go into this?
Well, yes. Let's save that because I do want to hear more about it. But my big question is, yes, I understand that you love this time period, but doesn't this mean that you have to do a lot of research to get all the details right?
And it's one of the reasons it's taking me so long. Yes, because although I do know a lot, there's a lot of verification. And as you know, I'm sure as a writer, once you start getting into things and you start needing those details, you need to go in and research and make sure that what you're writing is correct. Now, the fact that it's a YA, young adult, is a little bit easier because I'm not going to have to be a historian per se, but I also don't want to get it wrong. So you want to make sure that the world that you are creating is at least accurate enough that it involves the reader, makes them want to know more, because that's how I got into reading historical fiction, is some of my favorite writers, and they put me in the time and place with that character.
You mentioned Shakespeare, and it seems to me that as a fiction writer, you actually have a lot of play. I saw the movie Hamlet, and it was a fictionalized version of how certain events in his life may have played out. I don't think anyone is saying, hey, wait, I don't think that's accurate. Does that worry you at all about your own use of Shakespeare? And I think you said Christopher Marlowe too, very recognizable.
Marlowe is actually a larger character in this than Shakespeare, because the book centers on a real mystery, which is the fact that Christopher Marlowe was killed as a young man, and they have yet to ever solve his murder. part of that is because of the lack of actual evidence. And there is really very little that we know about these playwrights other than their works. There are legal documents where you can look up Shakespeare's name or Marlowe's name. But really, historians struggle because all they can get from contemporary accounts are, small write-ups, nothing that's really verifiable because this was 600 years ago. So does it worry me? Yes, in the sense that I want to make sure that the things that are known for sure are correct. But I also know that the vast majority of what we think we know about those people is conjecture, is from historians who have done their duty, but will always say, this is the best we can do. We aren't 100% sure. And of course, because I chose Marlowe's death, nobody knows. So I can make up you know what I'm saying? I mean, I can have it be whatever murderer I want. Take your pick. There's like 7 theories. And I'm moving with one of them.
Why did you decide to write fiction? You've written plenty of nonfiction as an editor and writer for business magazines. Why go into storytelling?
Several reasons. One, because I was an English major. So I read and I read and I read and I read voraciously. And I love the classics, as you mentioned. And I read constantly, couple to 3 books a week, depending on how long it is. I like the escapism of fiction. And one of the things that I discovered when I started writing, and I started this by taking a class during, it was pre-COVID. I took a class at University of Texas in Arlington, which is about 45 minutes away. And I discovered that while writing, and I'm sure you can relate to this, especially while you're writing fiction, your characters start to do things that you didn't plan. You're writing a scene that's supposed to be going down this road, and like a Robert Frost poem, suddenly it diverges to the other wood, and as you're writing it, you're thinking, whoa, I did not expect him or her to say that or do that. Or, oh my goodness, this is cool. And you keep writing. And so I'm finding it this other kind of level of consciousness almost that I have read since. Many artists experience this. My husband is he's a painter. He was an art minor. It kept him sane in college, and he still likes to paint. And he will say sometimes that happens when he's painting. He meant it to look one way, and suddenly he picks up the brush, and the second day he's working on it, he creates something that was not in his head at all.
This is why I don't like to plan ahead too far when I'm writing. I want the characters to say and do things that surprise me, and sometimes they do.
Exactly, yes.
Now, let's get to one. You did mention research and the amount of research required for this kind of project as one of the things that have slowed you down. Are there other things?
Laziness.
No.
I definitely think that the fact that I am an editor and a technical writer and I am on the computer all day makes the laptop my workplace sometimes. So that returning to it for quote unquote fun or relaxation can be sometimes, do I really want to go back to that desk? Do I really want to take my laptop with me? And I think also there is a little bit of that. I've written a lot and I still don't know how to make it connect into one linear story. Other people I know write in a more linear manner, from the beginning of the movie, or the beginning of the book to the end. I have not done that. I have started by writing scenes. And that's partly the fault of the class that I took, where it was a novel writing class and the teacher was fantastic. So I'm not faulting her, but the way she did it was she would have everyone sit down and say, okay, I want you to write a scene where your character has a dilemma. I want you to write a scene in which your character feels fear or anger or whatever. So you write this cool scene and you're like, oh, this works really well in my plot. Where am I going to put it? So I have a lot of disparate scenes, if that's the word. And I know generally where I'm going, but I have to fill in the blanks. And I've done storyboards and everything. And I know the blanks I need to fill in. But those are the more challenging plot points.
But it sounds as if you're assuming that linear, I could say it.
I know, right? I can't say disparate to save my life.
It sounds as if you're assuming that linear writing is the only way to go at fiction writing. And it also sounds like that is not your process. Instinctively, you do it in scenes, you do it in a different way.
Yes, yes. And actually, that opened up the idea to me when I took those classes in 2019 that, oh my God, people can write this way. This is how you can put a novel together, is by writing chunks of scenes. And she showed us a lot. I mean, so much. I have enough knowledge to finish my book. It's a matter of doing it. And doing things like your podcast and talking to you will certainly help, you know, in that regard. But I had no idea that that was something that you could do. And so, no, I think that you're right. I'm not a linear writer.
And maybe you should just accept that fact, because it sounds like you're still saying, oh, but if I were, it would be easy. I don't think writing is ever easy, no matter what
True.
process you use.
True that. True.
I want to hear more about this class that you took. What did you get from it? Why did you sign up for it?
Okay, that's a good question. Why did I sign up for it? It's been so long, I can't even remember. I think part of it was just searching for something to do. I was probably at a point in my life where I needed an outlet. I needed some friends, because I moved from Chicago to Texas 16 years ago almost. And I had made some friends here, but I kind of wanted to get more friends that were in my things that I liked and that I could share with them. So I started looking at adult ed courses at UTA. And as I said, it's about 45 minutes away. And I found this one for novel writing. And I thought first I was going to take a short story writing class, because I had done that in college and liked it. And then I saw this novel writing. And what she had was 3 levels. You took novel writing 1, novel writing 2, novel writing 3. And I believe they were 6-week courses. And I loved the first one so much. And in fact, the core group of people who joined that first group, it was her first time teaching this, they kept on it until she decided to add 4, 5, and 6. So she had 6 classes in all of novel writing. And the reason we liked it so much was most of us said, because of this class, we're continuing with our book. We're continuing to write. We're inspired to write. But then COVID hit, and she started doing only Zoom. And I'm not a big fan of Zoom classes, because you have 7 or 8 heads. All, you know, it was distracting to me, and it was not nearly as much fun. And it cost the same. So I was kind of like, well, okay, I'm not getting the in-person. And it wasn't her fault. This is just the way the university decided to go with it. Circling back, that's one of the reasons why I think I did stop being so insistent on, oh, I got to continue writing, is because I stopped taking this class. Because I could have taken it as many times as I wanted. So.
Hey, can we go back now and hear a bit more? Do you have the entire story for your book in your head, or do you just have the basic premise?
I want to say 3/4 of it is in my head. One of the big problems, Maureen, is that I don't know exactly who I want the murderer to be.
Oh,
and that's a big problem when you're writing a murder mystery, right?
I thought with mysteries, you're supposed to start at the end and then right back to the beginning.
Which is something that my teacher used to say, Barb, you got to figure this out. And maybe to me, the whodunit isn't as important as everything else that surrounds it. And again, there are theories. There are multiple theories. In my head, I'm creating someone who is going to be responsible for this murder. It will be not a real historical character, because they don't know who did it. It will be more like a character that comes from the historical time period, and it will fit one of the theories of why he was murdered, whom probably murdered him. But I haven't yet decided on which of the characters that's going to be. So I guess my biggest problem is, who's the bad guy? And also with mysteries, you have to have lots of red herrings. You
Yes.
have to put a lot of little clues in. So yeah, you need to know that in order to continue with the plot. I've even had people tell me, well, stop making it a murder mystery. Just forget about that. Well, no, because that's basically the premise of my book. So that's probably my sticking point.
And don't listen to people who tell you what your book should or shouldn't be.
No,
If you have it in mind.
yes, yes. And that's what I want to write. It's just, I've tried other ideas with the same characters and they didn't work.
And you have kindly agreed to read for us at open mic night at the Badass Writers Cafe. What part of your book are you going to be reading?
The intro,
Okay.
because it sets the scene. It opens up with it's a scene in her pub, her father's pub, introduces you to Lisbeth, introduces you to some of the main characters, and mostly it's just kind of as atmospheric and sets the scene. It does introduce Christopher Marlowe right away. His murder will also be fairly quick because you want the murder to be in at least the first quarter of the book, so that the rest of the storyline can play out where they're trying to figure out who did this.
You mentioned that when you moved to Texas, you wanted to find people that you had things in common with. Do you belong to any writers groups, or have you thought about joining any writers groups?
Yes, I have thought about it. And yes, there are some writers groups. And one of them is actually headed by the gal Amber who taught the class. And it's a Saturday night, right? And it's at a bar. And which is great.
Yeah.
I have a tendency, because I'm married and our Saturday nights are usually kind of like we're doing stuff. You know what I mean? So it has been sort of like I've never been to one. And it's not because I'm afraid to. It's not because I'm an introvert and I don't think I would get along. It's just more a matter of I don't really know if I want to drive there and do that. And I don't know how they're set up. I'm honest. I don't know how it's set up. What I really need is kind of an online writers group, people who will just get on me and we read to each other and we talk about our work. And I know those things exist. I have not sought one out.
Okay, they do, but they're often on Zoom, which you don't like, Barb.
I know. I know. I need to go. I'd rather go to a physical Saturday night one. Seriously.
I will say that's a pretty unusual night for a writers group meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought so too. I mean, make it Tuesday, make it any night but Saturday, because lots of people are busy on Saturdays.
They really are.
They have dates, and if they're young, they have dates or whatever. Yeah.
Do you fear that your book will just never get finished?
No. I think because I love the character so much, and I really like this. I like what I'm doing with it. I like where it's going. I like the last time I picked it up. I like it so much that I can't imagine, unless I get hit by a bus tomorrow, not finishing this novel at some point. Now, will it ever get published? Who knows? But I think the idea is good enough that it can be finished. And I would like to be the one to do it.
I would like you to come back on this podcast when you're done and make that announcement and read some more of it and talk
Wouldn't
about
that be fun? That would be
how
fun.
good it feels to have it finished.
It would be amazing. And then I even have my beta readers all set up. I know who's going to help me. I have people that are in my family, people who are not friends. I have people, you know what I mean? Because with beta readers, as you probably know, you need people that don't know you that well so that you can get some feedback that's not of a personal nature. So I have all that set up. I just have to do it.
Yeah, getting honest feedback is important. You've been an English teacher, you read a lot. What advice do you have for other writers, especially writers who, like you, might be struggling to finish a long work?
One of the things that I started doing was set a timer for 10, 15 minutes every day, every other day, and just concentrate on thinking about the book. Sometimes I just write something about a costume. Sometimes it's a matter of looking up a particular something that had to do with London pubs. Or looking at some of the scenes I have and seeing which ones still work with where I'm going. Spending that time helps. and it helps me think more about it. And that is a habit. That's something that it's not like a matter of, I know people, there are people who say, well, I must write a certain number of pages per day. That is way too much for me. That is something I'm not going to do because, again, I'm at the computer so much. It's more a matter for me of setting aside 10 little minutes, 15 little minutes a day, thinking about my book and maybe actually writing something to do with the book. Because then I might actually say, oh, I have an idea for a scene, or I can alter this scene and make it better than I'm writing.
I am in awe of people who say, I write 5,000 words a week or, 300 words a day, however many that they have.
Those challenges, yeah, those challenges, yeah.
That I cannot do. And if I do try to do it, it just frustrates me and I don't do much of anything. So
I agree. And I would feel like a lot of that would not be very good.
Right.
I feel like it would be a matter of like, just, I'm doing it because I have to meet a goal. It's sort of like, remember the library challenges of read how many books per summer?
Mm-hmm.
And my brother was like, I have to beat everybody, so he would read as many as possible. I wanted to read what I wanted to read, and I was really good at it, but I wasn't reading to win.
Yeah. We are going to run out of time soon, but first, before we do, and we're going to continue talking about writing, but let's talk about your smart dolls. What makes your dolls so smart? Why do you like them so much?
Okay, now comes the Barb is the weird writer part of your podcast.
Barb, that started a few minutes ago.
Right. It's like the second I came on. Well, first of all, say hello.
Oh,
That's
oh yeah.
She's my kitten. I have 3 cats. 2 are very old. 1 is very young. This is the young one. Okay, Smart Doll is a much larger size fashion doll than I am used to. I have been collecting fashion dolls for decades. Started with Barbie, went into a little bit larger. They're adult fashion dolls. Smart dolls are 2 feet tall, so they're very large. And they are created by a designer named Danny Chu, and he happens to be the son of Jimmy Chu, the shoe person. And he actually, I kind of looked into this a little bit a couple of weeks ago because he started with the concept. It was an anime character that he created for a show that he did in Japan. And the reason that they were called smart dolls was because the way they're constructed has a lot to do with STEM, science, math. He does a lot of things with physics, and it's a different way of creating a ball jointed doll. Lots of schools use his dolls in certain types of classes to sort of teach science, math, and ratios and all that other stuff. He's also very much about diversity. He felt that there was a lack of representation in the doll world. They're all beautiful, they're all skinny, they all look a certain way. Sometimes skin tones, yeah, there are different skin tones, and Barbie actually had done a lot with that. But his dolls actually have some, like various skin abnormalities like vitiligo, acne. One of them has a cleft palate. And he has many, many different characters that have different skin tones. Everything from the darkest of the dark to the lightest of the light.
Mm-hmm. And Barb, you've become kind of famous on Instagram as a photographer of smart dolls, haven't you?
I wish fame.
So Barb, I want to see some of these smart dolls. You've got me curious.
Okay. All right, let's see. I will start with a few different examples of what kind of dolls Danny makes. Can you see this?
Yes.
This one is in a coffee skin tone, so she's one of his ethnic girls, and she actually has like some really cool braids. That's one of her original wigs.
I like the texture of her hair.
Yeah, this is an especially nice wig. It really is. And of course, I have her dressed like sort of in ethnic clothing, which I bought at the last doll convention. This gal in the sort of Posh Spice look there, she is actually an original doll with original clothing from almost everything. This is actually an American Girl doll purse, but her face was, yeah, a lot of American Girl doll stuff works. Her face is actually a customized painted job that a friend of mine in Canada does them. So essentially, you send them the head that you want customized, and they sort of make it a little bit different than the original. And I got into that just recently, so I kind of really like how she turned out. This gal is one of, I forgot to mention earlier, he also has some plus size girls, and he calls them pear shaped.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, this girl has a little bit of a fuller figure, and these are extremely popular dolls because they wear clothes beautifully, but they look more like real people. And I very much wish these had been around when I was raising a daughter because, you know, body positivity is a big thing. And so again, she's about to fall onto the booze, so I better move her. My
As a
husband would.
pear-shaped woman, I approve of that doll.
Oh, she looks spectacular in a bathing suit, and it makes you feel like, oh, okay, I don't feel so bad, you know? Okay, next is, this is one of the ones with vitiligo. So she's one of the skin condition gals.
Okay.
And they are also, don't be shocked, customizable. So you can take their wigs off, you can go inside their head, and you can change their eyes. You can put different limbs on, different bust lines, you name it. Extremely customizable dolls. That's another reason why people like them.
Those are not like any dolls I had when I was younger. Fascinating. And I'm amazed that they're actual doll conventions. So it sounds like a lot of fun for you.
There. Conventions are a way for me to meet people that I've been talking to online for a few years, sometimes months. And I've made some really good friends, like actual doll connections with human beings that we have met up outside of doll conventions to just kind of get together, hang out, play dolls, whatever, weird stuff. I know. Sounds weird, but it's a really fun hobby.
It's stop calling yourself weird. But
Okay, I embrace the weird.
I will say, I hope you continue with your work in progress because it sounds interesting. It sounds like, even though I'm not a young adult, it sounds like something I would like to read. I love historical fiction. And it sounds like you have it well developed in your head. So I hope you find the time and the energy away from your editing and writing chores to do it.
Thank you, Maureen. And thanks for having me. And actually, this is kind of forcing me to think about it even more because now I sort of have a goal where it's like, well, geez, I did that podcast. Now I have to finish this book.
You're not the first person who said that.
Great. I love it. I love it. You're doing your duty for art.
And I will put a link to your Instagram in the show notes so people can go on there and see all the photography that you do of these smart dolls and all kinds of settings and poses.
Thank you. That'd be fun.
All right. Happy writing, Barb.
Thank you. Take care.